Oh, you are recording the time? Oh.
Sorry?
Are you recording a video?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that for you.
Oh, don't worry, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
I was trying over here, but I was in front of the screen, that's why I'm trying the other side.
Okay.
It should be fine. So, my name is Alec, and I'm here to talk about the impact of micro and nanoplastics in the marine food web. We'll first kick it off with some definitions. So as you can see, micro and nanoplastics are plastic particles, respectively smaller than 5 millimeter and 180 nanometers in diameter. However, during the presentation, I'll just use plastic or microplastic to refer to both of those for simplicity's sake. There are two major pathways of introduction of microplastic in the marine environment, and that's through wastewaters or through in situ degradation. And actually, degradation of larger plastic pieces on the beach have been found to be the most important source of introduction of microplastic in the environment. Here you can find some facts about plastics. What's important to remember is that the same properties that make plastic attractive, that's strength and slow degradation rate, are the root of the plastic pollution issues. Those issues, however, only matter if they have a negative impact on the environment and the organisms living within, right? We actually know for a fact now that plastics, due to different sizes and shape, can pose mechanical issues, so that means they can impede movement or block digestive tracts or respiratory tracts. They also tend to aggregate POPs, that's persistent organic pollutants, and metals, that's because they have a lipophilic surface. And several studies showed that PCBs, PAHs, and organochlorine pesticides have been found in higher concentration around plastic pieces in the marine environment than in the sediments, proving that this aggregation tendency. There's thus a dual threat that we already know of, that's toxicity of organic pollutants in the animals and mechanical issues. What we now want to know is whether plastic have a toxic impact once it goes inside an organism, and that's what we're going to study. Well, first we have to know how it goes into the marine food chain. And as microplastic pieces drift down to the bottom of the ocean, it will be picked up by benthic organisms. Those organisms have been shown to have lower feeding rates, impeded movement, and lower survival rates once they ingest microplastic found in the sediment. And they all were also found to have higher concentration of microplastic within themselves than in the sediment. That's proving bioaccumulation in one organism. If those species, which are keystone trophic species, have a lower survivability, will have a high impact higher up the food chain, right? Because those are basic food stuff. Or other studies have showed how plastic can transfer from one trophic level to the next. So blue mussels were fed with plastic pieces, which were then fed to crabs, and the crabs all have plastic in their bodies. Another study showed that algae exposed to contaminated water that was then eaten by zooplankton, which were then eaten by fish, showed that the plastic traveled through all those trophic levels, were found in all the organs of the fish, including the brain, which is damaged. So this means that the microplastics left the digestive tracts, went into the bloodstream, and then damaged the organs. The fish had behavioral disruptions, so they were not able to find as much food, had lower feeding rate, or disorientated, and just had a lower survivability rate in general. Again, those fish are keystone trophic organisms, so if they die off, again, high repercussion high up the food chain. A last experiment showed that shearwater seabirds feeding on contaminated fish also have plastic within themselves, which implies that those microplastics from the marine environment can eventually reach the terrestrial environment. All those studies showed that the POPs, the persistent organic pollutants, aggregated around the plastic pieces, also transferred to the organisms and transferred up the food chain as well. So you have now a triple threat of the plastic. And why does all this matter? It's because if the plastic traveled up the food chain, it will eventually reach us. If it has a toxic impact and can damage organs of animals, there's a high possibility it may also impact ourselves in the same way. The degradation of microplastic occurs mostly on beaches, is very visible, so there's something we can do about it. And last point is that marine ecosystems are already under a lot of stress. We've accelerated extinction rates in the marine environment up to 10,000 times the natural rate already. If we keep on adding stress on that environment, it may very well collapse, and we will be deprived all the ecosystem services from the marine environment. So as a conclusion, I'd like you to remember that the degradation of plastic can pose a real issue and a real threat to our health. The cleanup of the ocean can have a very beneficial impact on ourselves, the health of future generations and the health of the environment, and there's something we all can do about it. We can choose to use less plastic, to recycle our plastic, or simply clean up after ourselves once we go to beaches, both next to rivers, lakes, and then oceans. Thank you.
Okay. Good one.